Hey there, how's it going, guys? In today's tutorial, we're going to be working with audio spectrum in After Effects. Now, the audio spectrum, the way it works, it's quite simple, really. It's just an effect from After Effects that we add to follow along with music. And once we achieve that, we can just, animate it or, shape it into whatever form or style we want to make it look creative and as unique and cool as possible. So that's what we're going to be learning today. Without any further ado, let's get right into After Effects. So as you see here in After Effects, we have this little sample that I kind of created, which I have a star with a galaxy picture in the background and some gradient there. And if I preview it out for you, so there you go. The little spectrum here follows the audio, and you get that little effect. And I have it here shaped into the style of a star. And we're going to be doing something a little different once we create our own. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go to File, New, and start a new composition, or in your case, a new project, right? And I'll go ahead and create a new composition. The composition, I'm just going to go ahead and title it Audio Spectrum. And I'll go ahead and name it Juicy, because that's the name of the song. I'll go ahead and put it at 1920 by 1080. And well, I already know the duration of my song, which is 3 minutes 05 seconds and 26. But you're not gonna copy this because this is gonna be whatever however long your song is. Depending on the size of your song, the time of your song, then that's how long you'll make your composition. So I'll go ahead and press OK. And now the way, which mine is this one. Juicy, and I have 3:5:26, so that's the time limit of my song, and I'll go ahead and just use that. So to continue here, what we're going to do next is go ahead and drag our song into our composition, and so now we have the song, and we're going to go ahead and right click and create a new solid. Now the solid you should get here, maybe depending on yours, you might see gray or anything. Honestly, the color of this does not matter at all. Just whatever color is fine. And we're gonna go ahead and actually name it spectrum or audio spectrum, right? So we know that this is the audio spectrum, and we'll click OK. So right here on this solid, make sure that you have it selected. We're going to go over to Effects, and then we're going to generate an audio spectrum right here. And once we do that, it turns black, and we see this little line pop out. And this little line, if we were to press play, it should follow, or technically should follow the song, right? But it's not going to, at least not at the moment. The reason is because of our settings that appears over here. So I'll go ahead and go through each one and kind of explain what it is that each one does. So the first one is called audio layer. The audio layer is where we choose what song we want to use. In case if we had two songs, then we choose which one we want the audio spectrum to follow. In our case, we only have one song, so we'll go ahead and use the Juicy soundtrack. So I'll go ahead and choose this one right here. And as you can see, some little lines started to pop out, and then you can see that now there's some sort of movement. The second one is obviously your start and end point, your start and your end point. And then we have a path, which I'll explain later in a little bit. Then we have our start and end frequency. Now what the frequencies do is the song is at different frequencies throughout the length of the song. So depending how you want, like maybe the bass or maybe the trebles or the high ends or the low ends, depending on what it is you want the spectrum to follow, you can change that accordingly. Then we have the frequency bands, which in this case, the frequency bands is going to determine how many lines we have in between. So the more we put, the more lines we have, and the less we put, the less lines we have. So that's pretty much what the frequency bands do. Then we have the height, which determines how high you want it or how low you want them to show up in. Then we have the audio duration and the offset milliseconds. So this is going to make it so that there's some sort of lag between it. So if the music's going really fast, this thing will be going really fast. Maybe you want the music to be going really fast, but you want this to be going slow with it. Then you would change the duration and the offset. Thickness and softness, how bold we want it to look, and how soft around the edges or not soft do we want it. So I'll go ahead and leave that at 0 for now. And then we have colors. You can change the colors of the inside and the colors of the outside as well. And then we also have hue interpolation. What this is going to do is, if I were to press here, it's going to make you go from point A to point B through all the colors of the rainbow, pretty much. And then I'll set that back to 0. And if you only want like certain colors, then you can change it from here before it reaches 1 on this side. So basically not a full rotation. And we'll play around with that later. Then we also have digital, analog, or analog lines or dots. So lines, it's going to do this, creates this little effect here. And then if we choose dots, then that'll create, a dot effect. So this is completely up to you on how you want to use it. Then we have your options of sides. So we have side A, which will only show on the top, side B, which will only show on the bottom, or side A and B, which will show both top and bottom. And then we have our duration average and composition on original, which we won't use in this case, but you're welcome to play around, see what each one of those does. So I'll go ahead and make my composition here about 30 seconds for now, just so I can preview what's going on. And now that we have this, we can go ahead and start playing around with it so that we can make it to our liking. Now, depending on the song that you choose, this will be different for all of us. So don't come and copy my numbers. My numbers won't give you the same effect unless you're using the exact same song that I'm using. So I'm just going to go ahead and maybe move this over to around the 300s, and this one about 800, and that creates like a cool little effect like this, which I kind of like. Frequencies, I'll go ahead and add more of them, and I'll make the maximum height be kind of big. Let's see how it looks there. Yeah, so I kind of like that style that's going on there. My colors, for the meantime, it doesn't really matter, so I'll just choose. That looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. And again, if I were to put 1 here, you'd see that it takes you through all the colors of the rainbow. 0. Then I can also do this, and you'll have like some sort of colorations. That actually looks pretty cool, and I'll leave it like that. Then here, you can choose which one. I'm gonna stick with digital, and then I'm gonna go to maybe side A. Now that we have this, we have a decent pattern going on. Now we want to add a background to it. So let's go ahead and add a background. The way we're going to do that is right click, go to new, and add a new solid. After we add the solid, again, you just click OK. And then we're going to go ahead and go to our effects. Under effects, we can search for 4-color gradient. 4-color gradient, we can drag it in here or drag it into your solid that you made. I'm going to go ahead and rename this and name it as background. And of course, put it out of the way at the very bottom so we can see the background. And as you notice, this background has 4 colors to choose from: yellow, green, pink, and blue. And you see them all in each corner. So you can go in here and choose whatever 4 colors you want. I like to keep them within the same coloration. So maybe a pink and like a purple, like a dark purple maybe. Maybe another bright pink on this side. Or actually a dark purple right around there. And then for this one, I'll go to a pink as well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now if you notice, there's also these 4 little dots. And if you click on those dots, you can move it around and choose where you want these positioned and stuff like that. You can also move this this one, you can play around with it as you see fit. Then we have the blend, jitter, and opacity. You can play around with that to see what each one of those does. I just like doing this to kind of blend it in a little more. That looks kind of cool. I want this one to be a little darker, just like that. Looks pretty good. And yeah, so that looks good. I like that. Then I'll go ahead and play my audio, and it looks good there as well. So now that we have that, I'll go ahead and add a picture. I have one of these pictures. I have two of them. I'm going to go with the galaxy effect and go ahead and bring that in here. And I'll put it on top of my background. Now, if you like this image as is, you want to keep it like that, you could. But I mean, I like just messing around with it a little bit. So I'll go to overlay. That looks kind of cool. It creates this more like of a kind of cool look, music like, I guess, or electronic like feel. So now we have this, and it looks pretty good. And things are starting to look decent, right? So now what we're going to do is go ahead and add our spectrum into a circle. Now not the reason, but the way we're going to do this is by creating a mask. And as you already know, when you select the layer, you can put the mask on top of it. You can choose the mask to be whatever you want, either a shape that you create or one of the shapes that are already pre-made, which is like squares, rectangles, stars, so on and so forth. You can also use the pen tool and draw your own shape, whichever you prefer. On the original one that I made a star. Now I'm going to go ahead and go with a circle. So the way I'm going to do this is, now that I have the circle selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on my titles/action area. And this is going to allow me, when I zoom in, to see a center point. I'm going to click that center point, and as you can see, like, my circle goes everywhere. But if I hold Shift and Alt, actually Shift and Control, there we go, it centers it. So I'm just going to go ahead and center this right around here. That looks pretty good. And leave it as is. Now I'll go ahead and remove my title/action save areas. Now that I have that, I can go back to my audio spectrum and click on my control settings. Now we go to the part that we mentioned about paths that I said we would get to later. Now when I click paths, it says, hey, do you want to choose mask 1? Yes, I do. So once I click that, you'll now notice that the music is going inside. Now, if you like that look, you could leave it like that, which I think actually looks kind of cool. But I'm going to go ahead and switch it to B so that it plays on the outside. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that it's getting chopped off. The reason is because the mask is constricted to this little square that we have. So we're going to go ahead and open up our mask. And under expansion, we're just going to higher that up all the way to maybe like around 300-400. Just so that we have enough for all the long colors. I mean, for the long lines that extend really, really long. That looks pretty good to me. But now the colors are kind of hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and make this maybe like a light pink or light purple, I guess. And light pink here. Leave it like that. And now we can see these colors a lot more, which I think looks pretty good so far. Now, I'd like to add the name or the title inside here, which is going to be right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my type tool and just click anywhere. Supero. I already have the font selected, which is Nexa Light. That's the font that I currently like a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. You're welcome to use whatever it is that you want. And I'll go ahead and make this a little bit bigger right there and add it right to the center. And maybe I'll even get my shape tool, get my rectangle, and maybe add little line here to the bottom. But instead of a stroke, I'll go ahead and cancel that out. I don't want a stroke. And I'll go ahead and add a fill. Click OK. And so I think that looks pretty good. I want the line just a little bit thinner, so I'll go ahead and come zoom in, grab this part of it, shape, and just go ahead and make it just a little bit smaller. Hold on. Rectangle path. There we go. That looks fine to me. And I'll go ahead and move that up just a little bit. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is duplicate this layer and just move it up to the top. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks perfect. And I might even add a circle to go along with the one we already have. So I'm going to go ahead and add my title action safe area. Zoom in a little bit. Go ahead and click in the center. Hold command or control and shift. And just put that right around there. Okay, and of course I'm going to remove the fill. And I'm going to add a stroke. That stroke, I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit big, right around there. And just make sure that it's on top of my lines. And that way I can maybe even change it to overlay. You might be able to see it ever so slightly. There we go. And so there we go. That looks pretty good. Once I zoom out, you have this cool little feature that goes along with music. This is the basic way of doing it. There's a lot more stuff that you can do to it, like maybe add a glow. You can play around with the effects that you have over here, and add some effects to the actual spectrum. Everything else is completely up to you, but this is the basics. Now that I'm ready to render this out, I'm going to go ahead and pause it, extend this all the way to the end, and just make sure that you go to composition and add to render queue, and you'll be done. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you have fun with it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, and goodbye.